Right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out for joining us in this webinar this evening. We're discussing a residential development in Bloemfontein by the name of Roderick Park, and it's always good to see some of the regulars back in our group. I see Zandile in the meeting. Welcome, Zandile. She is already one of our investors in this development, so it's always good to have those clients back again. Really, really great. So thank you for taking your time out. We're going to be about 30 minutes in our presentation. We're going to run through a couple of slides just to give you some information. And firstly, just a couple of household rules for you. We will give you a chance for questions throughout the session. Please raise your hand, and if you have any questions, then we can answer them immediately. Sometimes we might lose our train of thought if we forget to ask immediately. And then obviously afterwards, we will also provide some discussion time for those of you who feel that you'd like some extra time just to discuss. Right, today we're talking about Roderick Park, and we're calling it a SuperFlip, and we will discuss exactly what a SuperFlip is just now. Let's get on with our presentation. Firstly, the big disrupting concept. There we go. So what's important for us is providing predetermined contractual returns from 17% upwards, on-the-shelf pre-vetted risk mitigation real estate investment opportunities, and compounded returns with real estate and security not exceeding 75% market value, all cost inclusive. Why we say this as a big disrupting concept, this is the way we do business throughout our whole company, the Assist Group. And what's important that those three factors are the three factors that actually mitigate risk while we're doing an investment. In a normal, traditional flip environment or buying of property, none of these areas actually come into play. But we see with us, we're doing it slightly differently, and our market is to assist people. And these are the three things that are crucial in getting our doing business a little differently, trying to disrupt the market. Right, so we've heard the word SuperFlip. I think a lot of you would have heard the word flip in the property market. And traditionally, that is where we buy a property and we sell the property, fix it up a little bit, and we sell it. And the challenge with that is always, firstly, we don't always know what we're getting when we buy the property. We know there's some work to be done. We're not always sure how much work is going to be done. So there could be a bit of scope creep. We might have budgeted a couple of thousand to fix. And then that, as we go, we all know how scope creep works. The tens of thousands could quite easily become hundreds of thousands in that environment. Once you've finished, investing in the property and fixing it up, then we still need to sell the property. And obviously, many times this is very difficult to determine what that price is going to be. Improvement, as we said, improvement quotations are almost done when property is transferred, and there are no guarantees up front that the property will be sold or that you will get your price that you would like. Hopeful assumed returns based on agents' assessments, and agents, although some of them are very good at their work, there's no guarantees in achieving what you would like to achieve. Where with the SuperFlip, in this environment, one we're specifically talking about this evening, the great advantage of this is that the properties that you are looking to invest in are already sold. So we already have offers to purchase in place with bonds being approved. The suspensive conditions have already been met. So the improvement quotations are verified and approved. And obviously in this scenario, we're working with brand new stock. So it's first time it's just been built. So it's still in the development phase or the building phase. Guarantees or undertakings are issued up front, and the profits are predetermined. So we are not, determining or trying to figure out what we're going to get. We already have that predetermined what we're going to get. The purpose of, let me just go back one. Sorry about that. The purpose of this joint venture. So the developer has raised a certain amount he's got a plan for a site development plan for a certain amount of units. 33 of these units have already been sold, and there's about 27 that still need to be sold. And what he wants to do, the rest of the development, he wants to retain. So that puts him in a position where we need to assist, and that's where SuperFlip comes on board, and where you as the potential investor comes on board, is to raise a certain portion of capital. As we know, many of you may know that banks will only release some of those offer to purchase bonds that have been approved after we've completed a certain percentage of the development. Now, this is very positive in this scenario. We've already sold 33, another 27 to be sold, and the rest of the units in the region of about 40 to 50 are going to be retained by the developer himself as an asset base for his growth of his next development. So that puts the risk, or let's put it, the onus on the developer himself to raise a certain amount of cash flow to complete that the bank can release those offers. So this purpose of this joint venture with us is to actually raise a certain amount of cash flow that we can complete the development to a certain percentage, and then the bank will release those various offer to purchases that have already been approved. And so the investor, which is yourselves, will then attract the investment, the predetermined returns. We just a note here in the red column, you can see here funding through institutional or through institutions like banks are substantially more cumbersome and need to secure substantially more pre-sales that they can do start before completing the units, and thus is beneficial to have an alternative funding method which will enable the developer to complete the units much faster and obviously delivering in a shorter time save on interim interest as we would have used from the development bond. And that's exactly what we've explained now, just to do something a little different and to create that bit of capacity for the developer to finish his development a lot sooner. The minimum requirement for the release of the funding for the development to start is 5.1. We've already raised 3 million to date. We have numerous investors already on board, and so we're doing quite well and tracking very, very well in this opportunity. And that is why we're doing for the next 3 weeks. We'll be doing just to finalize the last portion of that development that we can complete. And then we're on track at this stage to be completed with the first phase of the development in the region of about mid-June to early July, when the offer to purchase will start being released and the investors will start receiving their predetermined returns. So there are different ways to participate in this opportunity. The first one is in the land services, and that is a minimum amount of 250,000. You can see what is very interesting with we spoke earlier in our second slide when we talked about disrupting the market segment. You can see the exposure to market value is 60%. So that's very, very low, and it provides a lot of security for you. This is just a slide showing your returns and then the returns percentage per grouping of 3 months that you would return. We can also make the slide deck available or the presentation available to all of you afterwards. So should there be something that you'd like to study a little bit more in depth, we most certainly can make this the PowerPoint available to you by means of WeTransfer, whatever the case may be. The second opportunity is to actually buy in a unit. So in the first opportunity, we said land services. So the land itself has a certain value. Let me just go back to this slide and just illustrate that properly to you. You can see the land market value at the moment is 8.6 million. The cash required is 5.1, and the exposure in that environment is 60%. So we take tranches of 250,000 where we invest into land services to get that portion done. The alternative portion to this is buying in specific units. So in this scenario here, we can either invest 428, which will be the total unit. So in other words, one investor to take 428,000, they would invest in the unit themselves. Alternatively, we can also, and we've done it quite with a number of our investors, where two investors each invest a minimum of 214,000, which will give us the one unit You can see the exposure to market value is exactly the same, also at the 60%, and the return is also the same in terms of this. So it's just merely a question of preference. There you can see the percentages before profit, a minimum of 20%, and after the fees, a minimum of 17%. The reason why there is a sliding scale here, you'll see on the previous slide as well, between 17.7 and 36.7 is merely between the 3 to 6 months period, depending on where the transactions are finalized. There could be slightly more or slightly less. And that's obviously with the development slightly difficult to predict the exact time of transfer. As we know, we are working with property. So that just gives us a bit of leeway, but they're working on the minimum requirement, which is then obviously great returns for you as investor. Before we talk about the flow of funds, I just want to give an opportunity. Is there perhaps any questions that there might be at this stage? And if you would like to not maybe speak, I know not everyone enjoys speaking over the internet. So there is a chat room, so you're more than welcome to pose your questions in the chat room. And we will also leave our email address and telephone numbers on that chat room as well, where you're welcome to contact us personally afterwards as well, if there's something that you would like additional to know, or just to have a further discussion point around that. So I don't see any hands anywhere. All right, so we'll continue. Just going to open up the whole slide. Just increase this a bit. Sorry. Okay. John, I just need to get this one slightly bigger. Could you perhaps just assist there? I just want to make sure that we can actually increase this one a little bit. I just want to get it a bit bigger. There we go. Right, so what would happen is once you decided that you would, once you finished listening to our presentation, you decided that this is definitely something you would like to do, we would make contact with you. We would get you to sign the joint venture agreement, which is facilitated by our company Wealth Assist under the Assist Group. Once that has been done, we would then put all these agreements together, and we'll send a signed copy for the developer to sign as well. All monies will be paid into our deposit holding attorney. Symington and de Kock is the attorneys that we are using in Bloemfontein, and we are using PGA or Pieter Goosen attorneys here locally to get up all the documents and everything put together that we are using. What's very important that no funds at any time will be paid into Wealth Assist at all. All funds will be going into the conveyance's trust account, and from there we'll show you just now how the funds get released. So nothing is in control of Wealth Assist per se. We have a specific project team that has been appointed to manage the whole progress and deployment of these funds. The deposit holding attorney transfers will take place into this trust account, the transactional trust account, point number 4, with the deposit holding attorneys. Once we are happy with the money that is in there and the development hits a certain point, then progress payments will be released to the developer once the relevant documents have been signed, suspensive conditions have been met, and the professional team has issued progress certification. So obviously this is very, very important to us. We can't just release money on an ad hoc basis. So all monies that will be released will be based on certain achievement of certain criteria and milestones that we have put in the ground. So for example, foundations have been laid, we need X amount to cover the steel and the concrete and so on. We receive the quotes, we make sure that the project team has in fact done the work, and then we will release the funds accordingly. And so we'll go for the bricks and for the additional steel, the window frames, the electrical certificates, the NHBRC, and all the various items. So everything is itemized and driven accordingly, which is very important for you as investor to understand that your funds are indeed secure. The developer will receive progress reports, point number 5 there. Receive progress payments until the units are completed, and once the purchaser and receive the purchaser's price, or the conveyancing attorney can by completion of the unit and operation of the sectional title. Transfer will then take place by completion of the unit to the third party. Now, the third party will be the person who has actually put an offer in to purchase the specific unit, not the investor, the third party. And then the conveyancing attorney will make sure payments to various third parties and pay the various bodies to the balances to the depositing holding attorney, to the trust account, to the specific transaction. The depositing holding will make payment to the real estate investor and cancel the existing securities. We'll get to the securities later. So you can see there's a very, very strong correlation between the person who has put an offer in to buy the property, as well as the investor, and then obviously the conveyancer being the middle point to control exactly how and when the funds are released, and then obviously our project team on the ground, which is managing the project per se. Then the all the property related payments will be made. The money is then paid back to the real estate investor. And at that point, you will have an opportunity to either reinvest your money into Roderick Park, into a second phase, or to another unit. Or you could approach Wealth Assist and say, you know what, we're extremely happy with the way that the project went. We would like to do another investment in similar products. Roderick Park is merely one of the things that we are discussing tonight, and we have a strong focus on this at the moment, but we have other opportunities as well. So we would just like to put that out on the table as well, that should you feel that this is not for you, and of course, we must say upfront that the Roderick Park is a cash-driven transaction, but we do have opportunities with, if you are in a position where you are bondable, in other words, you still qualify for additional finances by means of a bond, then we have similar opportunities, just a different type of model that we are also able to use bonds in terms of helping people and to invest in that manner as well. So just in that last point over here, the investor has the opportunity to either roll over, or if you decided, you know what, that you're happy with the transaction, then we can end the transaction for you there, and your funds, your capital, as well as your interest, your predetermined interest, will then be paid back to you. Great. Security. Obviously, it's crucial to understand exactly what security is going to be there. All payments, firstly, all payments by investors made into the real estate assist appointed deposit holding attorney's trust account, that is Symington and de Kock in Bloemfontein. They are continued covering bonds which are registered in favor of the lenders for the capital invested for the first 12 months, as well as 20% cost clause. The undertaking and or guarantees of the proceeds after deduction of transfer fees and the agent's commission from the transferring attorney, the conditions of such guarantees, the letters of undertaking to be the satisfaction of the attorneys appointed by real estate assist in its sole and absolute discretion. So there are undertakings and guarantees that are in place as well to ensure that all the relevant tick boxes are in fact ticked for you. Cession of all proceeds from sales of the land services. We will show you just the pro forma, just to show you how, in the next couple of slides, we'll show you the pro forma just to show you how the layout of the various payments are made. Property assist, approved professional service providers to facilitate oversight. This is the project team. And sorry, just to interrupt, there was a comment now. Okay, Timbisa, correct. You said good evening. There's a comment that says funded. What does this mean? Are these no longer available? If yes, then I'm confused. Why are they displayed? Kindly explain. So when we have, we'll continue now, but a good question, Timbisa. So what it means is we have someone that is interested, they reserve the opportunity, and then that opportunity gets funded if they place their funds in. We have numerous of these opportunities. So that specific one would be under a specific unit which has been funded. That was recently. And then what we would do on a regular basis, once a week, we would take the funded ones off and just replace with another opportunity. We have more than enough opportunities. So that one specifically, it might be unit 106 or 105 or whatever the unit is. And then we replace those with unit number 108, 109, and so on, until we've got all the 50 or 60 units that have been funded. So I hope that explains your question. But thank you for that. That was a great question. Just getting back to our security. We spoke about our project team on the ground, and that's very important, that they are there to manage the service providers and the contractors, and to ensure that the team, the oversight team who releases in payments, are informed timeously to ensure that the correct payments are done with the correct progress reports. Progress draws required of each individual unit completed by means of a drawdown notice from the building contractor. That's exactly what we say. So no money will be paid out unless these reports are in fact in place. The bonds can be re-registered over any certificate of real right of extension issued in favor of the lender. And then the last one is there's also personal suretyship by a borrower in favor of the lender for the obligations of the lender as well. And that's very, very important to understand. So should there be a claim against the builder, all claims are waived. The first person that's going to stand in line should, in the uneventful position that something does go wrong, then the investors that have invested in money, they stand first in line. And then after the investors, the various contractors. So that's just one of the other aspects that we've put in there to ensure that your risk is mitigated as much as possible. Right, exit strategy. It's always important to understand how you're going to exit before you even start going into a transaction. So first and foremost, investment, the pro rata share of the proceeds of each unit after the unit investors have received their capital and returns. We'll show you the pro forma statement now. And payments of the undertaking and or guarantees of the capital and returns from the proceeds of the sale of the units after deduction of transfer fees and agents' commission by the attorneys, the holding attorney from where it will be paid to real estate investor. We'll show you the thing. So what will be happening is as soon as the funds are released, the investor is the first person that stands in line to receive the capital as well as their predetermined return on investment. Right, there's a pro forma statement of these. I think this is the smaller unit, the 790, and I think, yes, this is the small unit. So this just gives you an indication as to how the various monies are then paid out. And on each of your contracts, you will see that there will be one page which gives you a whole breakdown of when funds come in. In other words, when the bank releases the cash for the transfer, how the money then gets dispersed. And you can see there's quite substantial money that are remaining as profit. And so your money's in the way it's been paid out, the way it's been done is quite secure. And that's what we have aimed to do to ensure that we mitigate as many risks as possible. Daniel, you have a question there. Who do the inspections? Who does the inspections, and are they qualified? Yes, they are. So we have a project team on the ground, and we can most certainly share. We've got a slide coming up now which talks about our project team. But yes, they are qualified and have all the necessary certifications in place to ensure that the inspections are done, that there are no corners being cut for the development and so on. Does that answer your question, Daniel? Okay, this is just a similar statement as the previous one. It's just on the slightly larger unit. Then yeah, it's just a couple of track record of experience for the developer itself, just to give you an idea of his capacity, what they've done in the various instances. It's also good to see not just in terms of rand value, but also see capacity-wise in terms of number of units that they've done. So there's a nice mix between a large amount of units and also that they have the ability to do large quantities of money as well. So they're able to manage both types of environment very, very well. Current projects that I've been doing, and there's some more private developments that I'm busy doing. Right, and just to connect back to Daniel's question, in terms of the team, Daniel Lombard, he's also our executive chairman at the Assist Group. He is overseeing the whole Roderick Park development along with our project team, so he's very much involved. Peter Goosen is our attorney. He heads up Peter Goosen Attorneys, and he's our juristic officer for Assist Group, but is also primarily involved in this development as well. Then you've got Kim, who heads up our pre and post sales in terms of the contracts, putting everything together for you. Myself involved from a wealth assist perspective as well as principal in terms of this project. Then we've got our project manager, Henny Estreisen. You can see a wealth of experience there in various things and also well qualified, and he's actually set up a whole project team that is in Bloemfontein, and they are on the ground. And as we require the various services, he just manages that and get those correct reports in. So everything, the buck kind of stops with him in terms of making sure that we have the correct reports at the correct time to ensure that the money flows well and that the project keeps on timelines. Then it's very important to understand where the project is. You'll see Baywater, Bloemfontein. I'm just going to drill down for you into the area that you can get a good idea. You can see the local, this area is a school area, and this is the Roderick Park area over here. So if you know Bloemfontein, you will recognize the place quite well. If you can see the look and feel of the residential suburb, nicely developed, and Bloemfontein is expanding quite considerably. So a very nice opportunity indeed. Then here is a couple of renderings from the outside. What you can see, you will see that there are various blocks of each unit consisting between 6 and 8 units. And these blocks will be completed one at a time. And once they are finished, then they can be transferred because they are then obviously completed. And so we'll then go on to the next one as well. The next slide just shows you some internal renders, an artist impression, if you would. Yeah, it's just an example of a unit looking down onto the layout. And finally, we have just the architect's design of the unit itself. Great. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. We are now open for some questions. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to ask them for you. You can either type them or you can unmute yourself and ask. We are more than welcome. We'll give another, let's say, 5 or so minutes just to have the discussion if you are needing to have that discussion with us. Once again, thank you for your time. We understand the time, especially this time of the evening, is family time, and we are super grateful and thankful that you've joined us this evening. Thank you so much. Curlo, I just asked about the recording. Yes, Curlo, we will make the webinar available to everyone afterwards. Tembisa, this specific project is a cash project. So we are looking specifically for people who have cash available. Our other projects that we do will involve bonds, but we can also assist you with that. We have a bond origination department, and we can most certainly help you in terms of being pre-qualified for that. But this specific project is going to be cash-based. Tembisa asks, what is the minimum required? I can go to the two opportunities that are available. The first one is 250,000, which is in the land services, or alternatively half a unit, which is 214,000. I hope that answers your question there, Tembisa. I'm putting my cell phone number in the chat column, so those of you who would like to chat afterwards, please use that opportunity. I'm also putting my email address in for those who would like to perhaps use that method of communication. Right, there you go. Tembisa, thank you. Tana from our marketing and media will most certainly get your details for us, and we will send you that information as well. Hi, Daniel. That is well summed up there. Yes, that is correct. The SuperFlip is already sold, and we're just looking for funding to unlock the opportunity. That once we have reached a certain percentage, then the bank can in fact release those bonds that have been approved on the various offer to purchases, and so we can get the funds back to the investors. Correct. Thank you so much for that one. That's a great summary. Kura, yes, you most certainly can. I will be actually having those discussions with you and Moahi. So yes, you most certainly can. We can take that offline and discuss it there. All right, if there are no other questions, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. It was great talking to you, and we look forward to making contact with you, if not with this development, then certainly with some other opportunities. Enjoy your evening. A blessing to all. Thank you so much.